And a good day. Welcome. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Let's see if today's topic is something that you want to talk about. We are going to discuss, with the help of your takes, this idea where in life sometimes we will go out of our way, or really we're asking you the question, how far would you drive or travel by other means perhaps to save, for example, a few cents a gallon on gas, or to save a few dollars on a meal, or even $100 or more on an appliance you need for your home. We want to know how does your life operate this way? Are you someone who says, you know what, it's just convenient, it's right up the street, I'm just going to go get it? Or are you someone who methodically, plans things out, maybe even prays about it? Lord, where would you have me make this purchase? So, Debbie, it's a little bit more of a whimsical topic for us today, but I think people will have some thoughts to weigh in on with.
Oh, and I think it has really big, profound spiritual effects, Jerry, and it's a good topic. So we want to hear from you. And again, how much time do you spend trying to get a good deal? I mean, we've talked to some of our friends who said that sometimes they go on Craigslist or all these other online stores to be able to get the best deal on something, or to really save a lot of money, but spend a lot of time doing it. And is that a time well spent? Is that a wise use of our time? Or maybe, maybe we should be kind of weighing it and saying, well, if I take time away from my family, or I take time away from prayer to go save, a couple dollars, is that really worth it? Is prayer more important? Obviously, we know it is, but is prayer more important, or family more important? So we want to hear from you. You drive this show. Remember that. So what you say could make a difference in someone else's life, and that's important. 1-800-585-9396. That's the number to dial, but I would move quickly because lines fill up fast.
Yeah, I think there's really a couple ends of the spectrum on this when we try and look at it from a spiritual perspective. Maybe on one end, there could be sort of this casual, like, I really don't care, and then, spending more than we have to in certain instances, and then are we being the best stewards with what God has given us? Would God have us go a little bit out of our way to be, to maybe stretch the dollars that He has blessed us with? And Debbie, you and I were talking, I think yesterday or the day before, about this topic, and I think for some people this could almost become an obsession. I can save a penny a gallon on gas, so I'm going to drive across town to do that. Or, just constantly, really using up a lot of time and energy, like you were saying, looking for, a way to save a couple of dollars when maybe that's not the most prudent thing to do in a situation. So I think this calls for, this doesn't rise to the level of discerning a vocation or something. But I think it does require prudence and wisdom and even sometimes discernment on our part.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, because, a lot of times you mentioned a little bit about it becoming maybe an obsession to try and get the best deal, and you're spending a lot of time. And, that to me speaks an out of balance kind of life. And so you want to try to weigh that, really think about that, because we know, we've learned this time and time again from all of the life skills shows on TV, and all the little tips we can get on how to live a happy life, quote unquote, is balance. Balance is important. So could you possibly be slightly out of balance if you're obsessing on trying to save a couple pennies? Or maybe not. Maybe, like you said, Jerry, it's being a good steward. We really want to weigh this and kind of see what is the pros and cons of this. And, I think it's going to help all of us, because I will tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you that I have gone out of my way to get a better deal on something, and I felt really good about it. But then, logic sets in, and I have a very logical husband. He's amazing. And he will say to me, well, do you realize you spent $10 in gas and you saved $8.99? So what? But the thought of getting that deal, a little bit better, I thought, wow, I did good on that. So I don't know if others feel that way too, but weigh in on it. 1-800-585-9396.
Phone lines are open right now. I think for me personally, I'll just share a little, personal example of this. About a mile from me is a grocery store, and I'm not going to name the name of it, but I would consider it probably, some stores promote themselves as the low price leader. I feel this to me seems like the high price leader. And I know if I go about 2 more miles to shop for the same things, some produce, milk, eggs, whatever, I feel awesome coming out of that other store, Debbie, because I look at the groceries and things that I got and I went, this would have been so much more over at, store X. But there are times still, and it seems to have happened a lot recently, where I just say, you know what, my time is so tight and I need something right now. So this isn't something where we need to police ourselves and, feel bad, if we don't, if we don't dig a little bit and try to find, a way to save a little bit of money. But I think we should try, at least when the opportunity presents itself.
Well, and to your point, I like what you said, because, here's the thing. Is it the feeling that we like, that, we've got, does it make us feel good? And what is that feeling? Is it a feeling like, wow, I got away with something, I got a better deal? Or is it the feeling of, I did the right thing, I saved money, and maybe I could do more with that money and give it to a charity or to church or to Catholic radio? So I wonder what the feeling is, and I'd like to explore that as well. 1-800-585-9396.
All right, time for our first break, and our crack producer, Rich Jesse, will take care of that. We've got Matt Gabensky screening your calls, Jeff Burson on the social media. Great team behind the scenes at Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This question, how far out of your way would you go to be a good steward, to be prudent with the gifts, the financial gifts and other blessings God has given you? 800-585-9396.
From the archives, this is the wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Are you and I a friend of Jesus? That's the important one. He will never let you down. He will always be forgiving and merciful and compassionate. You can't say that of any friend. So I have a wonderful friend, and we've been friends for 40 years. Wonderful. I think that's a big grace. Scripture says, if you have found such a one, praise God. But ordinarily, you can't say that you would tell your very heart to this one or that one. To some, it would be like putting it in a newspaper. Be all over town, half hour. Well, you wouldn't talk to a friend like that. But with Jesus, you can talk to any friend. You can talk to him as the best of friends.
For more about Mother Angelica, visit EWTNRC.com.
We're so glad you joined us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Today we're talking about how far have you traveled to get a better deal? And is that a wise use of time? Is it being a good steward? Could maybe you have put your energies into something else that has a spiritual effect on you? So we want to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396. You can take this, kind of within reason, wherever you want to take it. But it's a good topic to discuss, because this would be the kind of topic, Jerry, that we would be discussing if we had a dinner party at our house, and people come in and they say, hey, did you hear about down the street there's a sale going on? And there is those conversations happening socially, and it's important for us to really think of it from the lens of a Catholic Christian. And so I think this topic is really important. I know you said whimsical, and I appreciate that, and it is whimsical to some degree, but really, don't you kind of think it has some really spiritual, a nice spiritual depth to it as well?
Yeah, I think it can definitely tie into the spiritual life, and so we're going to find out what you, our listeners, think with your takes, starting with Paul. Paul is in Buffalo, New York. Paul, thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How you doing?
I'm great. This is a great topic. I got a ton to say on it. Thank you. Before I do, I want to thank you so much for that lovely rosary that I got in the mail a couple of days ago that visited the Holy Land. I guess it was made in the Holy Land. And you guys sent it to me I was a caller the day after Thanksgiving for that show. And I was really, I took it to church with me on Saturday night, and I broke it in, so to speak. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Paul. That was a blessing for us to be able to do that for you. Thanks for your help with that tape show that we did. So, what do you think about this topic?
I talk with my wife all the time because she has a charge card that pays her back points in dollars. So she'll say, "Look, I got a $20 credit to go split." And I'll say, "How much did it cost you to get that $20?" And I'll tell her, those folks on that Hoarders TV show, none of them think they're hoarders, and she'll laugh at that. But the point being, we make value statements on how we spend our money, and I think it's important that we realize how we're spending our money and what we're spending it on. For example, last week I was on a convention for our company trip, and we're not supposed to tip the help, but there was a guy who was literally carrying like 30 bags on this card, sweating I felt bad for the guy, and I went up to him and I gave him a $10 bill. I thought, why? Just to show him that I appreciate what he's doing above and beyond what the company is affording him. And I feel like that's what we're supposed to do with our money. I call it value shopping with my wife. I tell her, we all know if something provides a value for us, and we want to that value that we get in return, we want to give equal value out of our pocket. And we don't want to give lesser than that through some gimmick. It's too bad that the stores nowadays have to sell everything with a gimmick, and people won't pay retail or what is perceived retail for anything. They want 50% off of everything. It kind of bothers me that we've come to this point where I think my ideal transaction is where both sides walk away feeling they got their money's worth, and I think we can do that, And it's not trying to. I think what we feel when we walk out of a store with a deal is like we won. Look, I won. Mm-hmm. I got this extra money, and I bought a pair of boots, and I know I got 4 pair of boots at home already, but I won. See, I won. I beat them out of this money, and I just don't think that's our calling as Catholics. I think our calling as Catholics is, like on the commercial I heard just before the show came on, is to profess our faith so other people can see what matters to us, what's important to us, not just keep our light under a basket. We need to let other people know, and say things like, "I don't know what I'd do without my faith." I mean, that's enough to profess who we are, and I think that's our calling, and we can do it. We can do it in the grocery store line when we're frustrated and there's a long line, or we can do it in the parking lot when we take a cart back that somebody just threw off to the side, and there's all kinds of opportunities to shine, and you guys sending me that rosary, like I began this, is a way to do it, and thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Well, and Paul, thank you so much for the thank you. And we pray that you have many, many blessings. That rosary traveled to all the most sacred sites in the Holy Land. And it was truly our honor to be able to carry it. And so thank you for praying it and breaking it in, so to speak. That is so awesome. I hope you have many, many, many years praying with that rosary, and it brings you much joy. And Paul, when you were talking, I agree with you completely. First of all, just on a little comical side, when you were talking about how you responded to your wife, I was thinking to myself, Marty, is that you? Because it's so Marty, my husband. It's so similar to how I think a lot of spouses respond to when another spouse feels like we've maybe gone into what you call like that gimmick type thing. And I agree with you, because I do think we've lost this idea that it's fair on both sides to be able to have a business transaction happen where both win. It's a win-win. We're in a world right now, and I agree with you so much that you said winners and losers. Oh, I got them. They lost out on this time. Oh, I was cheated this time. And it's really sad, because that's not how it should be. And again, I echo what you say, that if we profess our Christianity to the outside world on a regular basis, we may help to be able to transform that idea and to have transactions be a win-win for everyone. And so, Paul, you made some great, and I was touching on that feeling thing at the beginning of the show, of that feeling of, oh, I got him this time, and you hit right on it, Paul. You nailed it. So thank you so very, very much for calling in and blessing our day on Take Two.
Well, thank you for having your show. I listen all the time as much as I can, and your mission that you guys are carrying out is so much needed. Ordinary people expressing our ordinary faith that in the end is going to make us extraordinary. So thank you very much.
Well, may it be so according to God's will. Paul, thank you. Please pray for us, too. Pray one of those rosaries for us. I'm sure you probably already did. So 1-800-585-9396. Next is Michelle in New Bedford, Massachusetts, listening. Doesn't say, Michelle, how you're listening to us, but we're glad you are. And thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you can hear me. We're having a pretty windy day down here, so I don't know if the reception's coming in clear.
We got you loud and clear.
Okay. Mine is a comment that I feel when it comes to the, how far people would go to save money. I have a friend, and I won't mention her name, just to protect her anonymity. But she, as well as a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this myself at some point in my life. But she'll go like from store to store, say, she'll go grocery shopping, she'll hit this store, that store. Why do you go to 3-4 different stores? Well, because over here you can save this much and you can get this for that price instead of over here for that price. And I'm like, but listen, do you realize by the time you go to this store, and that store, you didn't save nothing because you're spending extra money in gas to get here, to get to point A to point B. I said, so you're really not saving. I said, because you're spending that money to put it in the car or, you know what I mean, to get to these stores. But I also feel like we got to be careful with that kind of stuff too, because it's easy to get sucked into that. Because we live in a very materialistic world, and it's easy to get sucked into thinking that happiness comes from having things, having more of these things, whatever it may be that you're saving on, whether it's food, clothes, toys, electronics for the house. We chase the enemy likes for us to chase after these things, but the Word of God says to be content with what you have. But as this country gets further and further away from God, we're losing our contentment in Him. So we need to find something to put our contentment in. So we'll throw that in, worldly possessions because, people want to keep up with the Joneses. If you got that, then I'm going to go get it too. And if I have to stand in line on Black Friday all night long, then I'll do it. It's not really that we want these things. It's that we feel we have to have them, because that's the way society is today. People look up to people that have a lot of money, have a lot of nice things. Oh, you guys are never without. You always have this, the best of everything. And, it's chasing after the wind. It's stupid. I know that the most happiest people in the world have the least amount of things. And I was just discussing this, and I'll wrap it up after this point. I happen to have a conversation, maybe a little bit off point, but it does tie in somewhat. I was sitting at a table having dinner with a friend yesterday, and I said to this person, I said, hey, these bones, I said, you could use these bones to put it in a soup because they were nice and big and thick. And he goes, well, I don't want it. Now, if you just licked it. I said, something? I said, this country is we are so spoiled and we take everything for granted. I said, do you realize if you went to a third world country, they would care less if you licked the bone or not, as long as they had a hot bowl of soup sitting right there in front of their face. But the point I'm making is, it goes to show that we chase after these things because the root is that we're looking for happiness in the wrong places, and we think if we save, that's going to make me so happy because I just saved money here and saved money there. But that's fleeting, because then you're going to put it in the closet and you'll never wear it again. I'm long-winded. I apologize, but that.
No, not at all. Michelle, you made some fantastic points, and Jerry and I want to comment on so many of them, but I'm just going to highlight just a couple things you said, because I agree with you completely, just like I agreed with Paul, the previous caller, and you. The thing that I think is really interesting is that you touched upon this idea of that the more things we have, it doesn't bring us happiness, and people who have just a few things that, there's more gratitude and there's more happiness. And I would just take that just a tiny step further and say that when people are not bound to their material things, they have a sense of freedom that is so far beyond anything we can understand. And I say that because my husband and I are in the practice for the past 2 years of practicing that. We downsized. Our children are grown and out of the house, so we downsized dramatically. We purged so many of our things, and we gifted them to people that we love, because we wanted them to have the joy of some of the material things that we got to benefit from. And I'm not saying this to get, tout, because believe me, I can be a bit of a pack rat, a little bit of a pack rat, because I came, I'm the youngest of a big family, and I always thought, well, if I've got this one thing, this one toy, I'm keeping it, And so I felt that way. But I'm not trying to, pat ourselves on the back, but we're practicing this. And I can tell you that my husband and I feel extremely free. But there is a cost to that, because we do have some of our peers and our friends who kind of look at us like, what's happened? Did you lose everything? Why are you downsizing so quickly? Why are you giving away your stuff? What's happened to you? So we've kind of, we laugh behind closed doors, my husband and I, because we can understand that it feels different to them, that we're different. But I'm loving it. I can't say we've perfected it, but I can tell you it brings a sense of freedom. So I just wanted to echo, Michelle, you brought up some great comments, and I just wanted to say that your advice does work. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Well, thank you for that, and I agree with everything you said as well. And I do want to say thank you for taking my prayers to my emails to the Holy Land, so I greatly appreciate that. I've always wanted to go there, but I've never financially was able to afford it. So I thank God first and you for taking me there spiritually through my prayers. So that's about it.
I'm glad you said that, because we did take you there spiritually. We took everyone that sent in, and all of the Take Two listeners, we took all of you with us and your prayer intentions and requests spiritually to the Holy Land. And it was truly a humbling experience for us. We felt so privileged that you entrusted your prayer intentions to us. So thank you, Michelle, and God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for your call. And the others, Regina and Ted, the others on the line, what we're going to do is just get up to our hard break here in just about 2 minutes, and then we'll give you all the time that you need. So please be patient there on the line. Others of you who would like to join us, the number is 1-800-585-9396. I think as Paul put it, Debbie, we're just, on this show, we just try and be down to earth, real life. And so again, today's topic, it may or may not touch on somebody's eternal salvation, but it is something that we thought we would bring up and ask you, our listeners. And that is, what are some of the ways that you go about trying to maybe save money in your shopping, your buying decisions? How far do you travel to save a little bit of money? Do you maybe fall a little bit short in that area? I know Paul mentioned, for example, the whole idea of credit card points. Okay, I put everything on my Southwest Airlines credit card, and I fly free all the time. But, Debbie, there are some times when you go to make a purchase, and they say, by the way, we're going to add 3% if you want to use your credit card. And I sit there and I go, oh, I want the points. Until I finally say, wait a minute, you know what? That's not wise, because if it's a big purchase, it could be a couple $100 extra just to get those points. In other words, you're buying points. So these decisions really do face us in our day-to-day lives all the time.
They do. And just so you know, I'm going to go back and listen to the show again to get Paul's quote, because I'm hoping that he'll allow us to borrow it. I thought it was phenomenal, where he said something to the effect, and if I didn't get it right, I'm going to go back and listen to the show, that we're ordinary people talking about ordinary spiritual life, but in order to help others or to let others do extraordinary things and to be extraordinary Christians. And it's something to that effect, but I'm going to go back, and I loved it, because that is exactly, he captured the heart of this show. And that's what it is. These are the conversations that in the PC world we're not allowed to have. You can't bring up a lot of these conversations with friends in social settings. They look at you like, oh, if you're going to go towards religion, don't go there. Well, we can do that here on Take Two. And you heard that beautiful music. This is the one break that Jerry and I wish we could move, but we can't. So we're going to take it, and we come back. We're going to go right back to the phones to Regina, that's waiting so patiently. And until then, just hold on, because you're going to listen to some great, great spots, and we'll be right back.
EWTN is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If your cable or satellite provider doesn't carry EWTN's full programming lineup, give them a call and let them know you would like to receive EWTN 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
For more information, go to EWTN.com and click on Television.
60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa.
There can be no doubt that the exercise of the priestly ministry, especially in the celebration of the sacraments, receives its saving effects from the action of Christ himself, who becomes present in the sacraments. This is a very important thing, because all too often we have had liturgists and clergy who start to think that perhaps the liturgy is about us, and we make a good experience by music that makes us just want to hug our neighbor, or we have a good feeling about it. I'm not against hugging your neighbor. I'm not sure that Mass is the right place to do it. But that warm, fuzzy feeling is not what Mass is about. The essence of the sacraments is that Jesus Christ himself is acting. He is present.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
With me is Dr. Ray Garendi, proud 9-time winner of the Catholic Media's Humility Award, who suffered a humiliating defeat this year at the hands of Al Cresta. Dr. Ray, do you have a strategy to reassert your humility?
I'm gathering listener support through this petition.
There are only 4 names here.
I've only been collecting for a month.
And the signatures are all yours.
I'm priming the pump.
Well, if you'd like to add your name to Dr. Ray's petition, tune in to The Doctor Is In Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
I think I can get Cresta's wife to sign next.
Take two with Jerry and Debbie. Right back to your phone calls on this topic. As promised, Ted, you'll be right after Regina. Regina is in Sioux City, Iowa, listening on St. Gabriel Communications, FM 88.1. Hello, Regina. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you guys?
Pretty well, Regina. Thanks for calling.
Good. My husband grew up in a very small town, and so ever since we've been married, no matter where we lived, we have supported the small mom and pop operations or the family-owned businesses more than the chain stores, because he has always felt like, it's a Christian duty to help to support those that are trying to make it. And we have been self-employed ourselves in the past, and, if you don't get the local people to support you, then you don't get any, support. And, they're trying to make a living too. So we have always, thought it was more important, instead of looking for the, best dollar at the chain store that the money goes out of town, is to shop locally and keep the money where you live.
Regina, this is why I love this show, Jerry. I mean, every single call that comes in, you guys, you have such amazing, profound statements and advice and suggestions, and it's beautiful. Thank you for bringing that up, because we agree with you. Locally, to support the local merchant, the like you said, the mom and pop organizations. That is truly our bread and butter in the community, and it is such a great support. I agree with you. My husband and I try to do that frequently. We live in a pretty big town, but we have a lot of independent shop owners, and we do that as well, especially in restaurants, because I used to be in the restaurant business, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen wonderful people start a restaurant. They put their whole life savings, everything, their families work in the restaurant, and it doesn't make it, because people would rather go to a chain restaurant than to go to a family-owned establishment, and just because for some reason, because advertisements say that the food is better at chain restaurants, I don't know why, but they say that. So I agree with you. If we can do that, especially to support our Christian brothers and sisters. We did that in the Holy Land, Jerry, when we were were in the Holy Land, Regina, there was a lot of Christian merchants that are trying to hold on and trying to maintain the Christian presence in the Holy Land. And so we chose to support them and to buy souvenirs at the Christian stores because of that. And so I agree with you completely. Jerry?
No, I just think Regina makes a great point. And I remember, I think I'm old enough to remember, Debbie, maybe you too, how, where I grew up in a town of 500. My first job was at the local grocery store. Everybody knew everyone. It was family owned and operated. And you had the post office down the street, same, you know what I'm talking about, the drugstore, the barber, the small little restaurant.
Mayberry.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame that has been lost largely. But Regina, I think you make a great point. That even if it's a few pennies more, which in a lot of cases it will be because they don't have the mass-produced 150, 200 store chain. But I think you make a great point that we need to support those. Anything else you want to add to that, Regina?
No, just, that those people, we have a family-owned grocery store close by, and we also have a chain store close by. And the family-owned one hires 14-year-olds and teach them how to, work at the grocery store. And so they have the kids pick the groceries out, but they have them dress up, white shirts, ties, with their name, black pants, and, teaching the kids work ethics and just give them great opportunities, and I think we need to really support them, even if they are a few, cents more, because they in turn give back, and, they're usually good Christian people.
Yeah, absolutely. Regina, thank you for that call. Appreciate it very much. I mentioned the store that I worked at when I was a kid. I started when I was 12. Got $1.75 an hour, and yeah, I feel like I really owe the store owner, Al Johnson, God rest his soul. He was tough to work for sometimes, but he wanted to run it right, and he did right by his employees too. So I felt like he really gave me, Debbie, a lot of formation, a fantastic opportunity. I worked there until I graduated from high school. So it was a great opportunity. So Regina, thank you so much. And we get the Patience Award, and we're going to hand it to Ted in Oregon, listening on Modern Day Radio. Ted, thanks. You've been holding on for a long time. We appreciate that. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Actually holding on long enough to drive all the way home, but I'll stay in my car for this phone call.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I originally listening to you on hold or listening on the radio. It's the same thing. I grew up in a small town like that, Silverton, but I was a farm kid, so we were 6 miles out of town. I never worked in town. I worked for all the farmers around. But yeah, I had originally called in saying about thinking about local, because I spend extra money to buy local so that my neighbor will have a job all the time. And I also I can no longer hear anybody. Am I still online?
Oh no! Oh yeah, you're here. We're listening to you.
Okay. But the other thing the reason I originally called in was at the very top of the show you said that driving away for a deal could be taking away from your prayer time. And I think not necessarily. Right now I'm unemployed, but I'm a computer programmer, so I'm often contracting and thus in the car a lot. That is part of my prayer time, is being in the car. Whether it's praying when I need to in traffic, which is quite often in the Portland area.
Yeah.
Or listening to Modern Day Radio, listening to KBVM and shows like yours. So that is part of my prayer time. I'm also a Knight of Columbus, and I was just thinking while I was on hold how I need to run to the other side of town sometime this week to drop off baby bottles full of change for Mother and Child Education Center for the pro-life birthright place.
Beautiful.
And that's going to be a 20-minute drive from my house. So that's another opportunity to pray.
Well, and Ted, thank you for saying that, because Jerry and I talk about it all the time, about how wonderful in our cars we can listen to Catholic radio, we can pray the rosary, we can listen to Christian music, we can really be in that prayerful state in the car. And so you're right, you can kind of do two things at once. You can be, shopping for something or having to travel somewhere, and also keeping up your prayer life. And I think that is beautiful. I just wanted to say, on a personal note, I didn't want to be left out of the circle. You grew up in a small town. Jerry grew up in a small town. So did I. If you look up Caldwell, New Jersey, it is tiny, and it is just like Andy Griffith's show. It is like 1 mile straight, and we all lived around this one center part of town in New Jersey. So I did as well, and I appreciate you saying that you support your local establishments to give your neighbors a job. And that's what we are called to do as Catholic Christians, is to help each other whenever we can. And you're doing that so beautifully. And thanks for being a knight. Jerry's a knight. My husband's a knight. I guess I'm a wife of a knight. So that brings me back into that circle. But thanks, Ted. You really blessed our day.
Yeah, I remember, Ted, I don't know if you know, I lived in Portland for about 18 years and was a seminarian there in the Archdiocese. But when I worked there, I always used to jokingly say to some friends and family, I'd say, I live exactly a rosary away from work. They want to know, how far do you live from work? I live a rosary away from work. So we got to do a show on this sometime. I think Ted's given us an idea, like, transit prayer time or something like that. Ted, anything else on your mind today?
No, not really, other than getting into the house to help my wife with her daycare, which is what I do when I'm unemployed.
Well, bless you. We're going to pray that you're not unemployed for very much longer. Take two family. Let's pray for Ted. And yeah, you better get in there, Ted. Your wife's going to be wondering what's going on. Those folks on the radio are keeping you from your important family duties.
Yeah, really.
All right.
Okay.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. Dave,
Bye.
thank you. Dave in Minot, North Dakota. Dave, you will be first right after this very, very short break. Don't go away. And how about others? We got time to get a couple more of you on the air. We are talking about, to what lengths do you go to save a little bit of money? Is it worth it? Do you find better deals? Do you sometimes just give in and say, you know what, I could drive 5 blocks and save $10, but it's more convenient just to do it right here? 800-585-9396. Your takes will continue right after this.
Something amazing is happening on EWTN. One wildly dynamic speaker and a team of young missionaries are on a cross-country road trip, spreading their message of hope in Christ. Their passion is awakening youth to the power of God's love. It's energetic, honest, affirming, like nothing you've seen on TV before. You're Amazing with Justin Fatika. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN. Hey, Catholic high school and college filmmakers. Want to get your work seen in over 250 million homes around the world? Then enter the Cool to Be Catholic commercial contest. We're looking for original 30 and 60-second spots that focus on Catholic themes. 3 grand prize winners will get an all-expense-paid trip to the EWTN studios in Birmingham, Alabama, and a guest appearance on Life on the Rock. To find out more and to enter, go to EWTN.com/cool2becatholic.
Hello, this is Bishop John Brungart of the Diocese of Dodge City, and you're listening to EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for staying with us on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. And we're talking today about how far you would travel to get a great deal. Is it a good use of your time? We heard from Ted that it could be a great use of your time, a great use of your prayer time. So you could be driving and praying at the same time. We've heard from so many others that are giving really wonderful, just wise advice on how we should perceive this topic. And so we want to hear from you. Well, there go the phone lines, 1-800-585-9396. But Dave has been waiting so patiently in North Dakota on Real Presence Radio. Hi, Dave. Welcome to Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello. Yeah, so my thing is kind of like I'm going to kind of be a little bit of a voice of kind of dissent here. I'm a bit of a younger guy than I think a lot of your audience. And I just kind of wanted to share an anecdote about my grandfather. So my grandfather was born in the 20s, grew up during the Depression and everything. And I lived with my grandfather and grandmother when my grandmother was passing. They lived in Trenton, New Jersey. And so my grandfather had a lot of idiosyncrasies that, he would say, "Oh, I grew up during the Depression. You don't know how things are nowadays," and blah, blah, blah. And the man would do so many crazy things to try and save money that were just utterly ridiculous. And I think a lot of people do these things and they think they're saving money. Like a big thing my grandfather would do that would really annoy me would he would reuse garbage bags. And it's like, that's just one of those things. My father gave me a lot of good pieces of advice when I moved out on my own. And one of them is, he would say, "Dave, there's a few things where it's just worth it to spend that extra money. And one of those things is garbage bags." And I learned that the hard way. I bought dollar store bags, and they were worthless. It was absolutely worthless. I might as well have just, thrown my money up in the air. And I just don't understand this whole attitude. I understand the whole thing of, respecting someone, respecting your elders and everything else. But I don't think it should just be carte blanche, just a blanket like, "Oh, well, that person's old. They obviously know what they're doing." I mean, the whole thing with, Catholicism, I feel one of our basic tenets is actions, not words, not empty platitudes. And so I think that's something, because it's, at the end of days, everyone is judged on their actions. And so...
well, Dave, it sounds like that. Do you kind of struggle? Like you said, your grandfather did these things. They went to the extreme, and then your dad gave you some great advice, some pragmatic advice, and practical advice to live out your life. Do you struggle sometimes when you do make a purchase that are you reflecting back to your grandfather and saying, my granddad wouldn't do it this way? Is it something that you waffle with, or have you reconciled with it?
Well, pretty much the whole thing. And I know this is making my grandfather sound a lot worse than he was. He was a really good man. He worked his entire life. He worked as a machinist, and he did what he needed to do. He took care of his family. My father and my uncle always had clothes. They could always go to school. They always had toys at Christmas, all that stuff. So I mean. And he took care of his obligations. So it's just, I'm not trying to say, it's just, I think there is that thing as people get caught up. A really good thing my father told me, which is an old British saying, is don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Where right. Oh yeah, I'm spending pounds, the British equivalent of the dollar. I'm spending pounds to save a couple of pennies here and there.
Right, right. And just so you know, you can rest easy. You did not make your grandfather look bad at all. I mean, I think you didn't. And so I think all of us have somebody in our life, a grandparent or a parent. Like you said, you're a little bit younger than us, so maybe ours is our parent that has lived through that generation. And so you're not making anyone look bad. But yeah, I think it does bring up a good point. Where's the balance? And I go back to that. Where is the balance? And I do think you do need to make good decisions in certain situations. I agree with you. I would not reuse a garbage bag. To me, that's for a lot of reasons. I tend to be a clean freak sometimes, and I really don't. I like to use everything brand new. So I wouldn't do that. But I can see where other people would rationalize that and think that that's a good thing or a good use of being a good steward. So I understand exactly where your come from is, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it gives us food for thought, Jerry.
Yeah, and I think along the line that we're talking about here, I think sometimes it makes more sense to spend more. Because, for example, take an item of clothing or a pair of shoes. If you go down to the bargain shoe store and you pay $9.99 and they're worn out in 6 weeks, and you could have paid $29.99 and you get 6 months out of it. So again, I think there's no one size fits all, but I echo what Debbie said. You didn't, you were just passionate about this, and I think there are a lot of people who share your grandfather's, feelings about that. It was a very tough time. I mean, it was really, really tough. I don't think we can fully appreciate that. So, was there anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
Yeah, the one thing I would say with two things I should really say. One, the first thing is I'd really like to say I think a great organization. I'm not exactly sure if, they're Catholic organizations. I know one in particular isn't affiliated with any sort of religious thing, but are just the and I don't know about how everybody else's opinion is, but my personal opinion is that doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? It's like whatever, But
sure.
Thrift stores, like Goodwill. Salvation Army. I know Salvation Army is like their own religion. There's another one here in town, if I could give them a little shout-out, is the Dakota Boys and Girls Home. There's another one here in Minot called the Restore, which is they support a drug rehabilitation clinic. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's one thing, though, because then I'll kind of a little bit, disagree with myself, but I think that is one thing from that generation that we've lost in this country is people always want new things. They think for some reason, just because stuff has all this shiny packaging on it, that it's more quality. I do a lot of selling at flea markets and stuff like that. And, that's something is like the quality of furniture. I think that's a great example. Quality of furniture has just dropped abysmally in this country. A buddy of mine, he's got a really decent job and he makes a lot of money, but he just doesn't care about this stuff. He went to IKEA and just like, okay, I need to buy stuff for my house. So he bought stuff for his house because I need a couch to sit on. The couch he bought, spent $400 on, was broken within 3 weeks because he's a big guy. Yeah. And I bought myself, I'm not as tall as him, but I'm pretty heavy. I got a couch for $25, and I'm not trying to say that, I'm so much better at buying stuff. I bought a couch from Goodwill for $25. And the thing's from the 70s. It might be ugly, but
it's like Dave. It's like older cars. You buy a car from the 1960s or 70s. And if you get in an accident, you're going to win because those things were really built much more sturdily than they are now. But Dave, you make so many great points. I'm sitting here with just about all the clothes I have on are from thrift stores. I shop I can't stand to pay retail for clothes. You just go in and textiles and other stuff. I just look at it and say, a shirt for like, $40 or something. You get the same shirt at thrift store for $3.
I know. And I you do it very well, too. You have a nice collection of thrift store stuff, which is good. It's all good.
Gosh,
but Dave,
thanks.
Dave, thanks so much. It sounds like you got the best of your grandfather, the best of your dad, and you sound like a really cool guy. So thanks for calling in and sharing with us today. You really helped us. Do we have time to go to Elizabeth real fast? Elizabeth, we're running out of time on the show. We always do this, and please forgive us. We only have a few minutes. Elizabeth from Miami, Florida, listening on EWTN.com. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much.
The previous caller was talking about things that I wanted to talk about. I'm a bargain hunter, and I go to thrift stores. And what happens is I was complimented once on a sweater that I was wearing in church. And I mentioned, this was a bargain that I got at a thrift store at Goodwill. And the organist says, keep quiet. You're not supposed to say that. So my comment is, how fussy are we about our shopping? Maybe we're too fussy. Also, yesterday I bought chicken leg quarters for 29 cents a pound at a local mom-and-pop supermarket. And if I'd have told somebody, listen, I got this great bargain on the chicken leg quarters, they would have probably looked down on me for saying that and for buying that because everybody just eats chicken breasts. So this is my comment. Maybe we're too fussy about the things we buy. And the money that we could save by not being so fussy, we could spend on other things like charities or giving the luggage porter a better tip.
Right. You're absolutely right. Elizabeth, I agree with you because I think society, if we can have more of us and exactly what you're doing and Jerry, shopping for clothes at thrift stores. And I will tell you, when I was at the Holy Land, when we whole entire pilgrimage, everybody in the pilgrimage said to me, "Oh my goodness, your boots are amazing. They're waterproof. They're awesome. I wish I brought those boots with me." And they said, "Where did you get them?" Well, I got my boots at Target. And I came right out and I said, I bought these boots at Target. And they all looked at me in their eyes. They said, "Really? They're really nice." And I said, "Yeah." And that's why I bought them, because I knew it was going to work on the pilgrimage. I agree with you. We have to start kind of educating our brothers and sisters in our community to not look down on when we can really use something, in a great way, no matter how we've obtained it. I mean, if somebody gifted it to you, you got it at a thrift store, you bought it online and you got it super cheap, that's awesome. That's a great use of your time and money and to be able to, use something wisely. So Elizabeth, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think we need to just kind of re-educate the world a bit and not to look down on things. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Elizabeth, thanks for the call. And Kathy and Ann, I wish we had time to get to you. We just have about a minute and a half, actually a minute to go, and the music, that beautiful music, as Debbie calls it, will roll. So, Debbie, wow, another fantastic conversation with our listeners. We appreciate your participation on the program. Tomorrow, we get a little bit more serious, Debbie, and we want you to be, dear listeners, we want you to be ready for tomorrow's program, especially if you're married. Communication, frank communication between spouses. This is so important, and sometimes it gets lost. And Debbie, if it starts to weaken between a husband and a wife, I've never been married, but I've seen enough examples of it. If communication breaks down, the marriage could ultimately break down.
Right, and we're going to be talking about really good, positive communication where there is a win-win, which each spouse feels safe, each spouse feels like it's a communication that gets them to be better after it. You don't want winners and losers in communication. That never works. And so we're going to talk about frank communications between spouses tomorrow. It's going to be a great, great show tomorrow. We're going to ask you to please make sure you mark it on your calendars that you're with us tomorrow, or tell your friends about it, because we don't want to lose you. Remember, you drive the show.
Yeah, prepare your takes for that. And as we end today's broadcast, I want to remind you, Debbie and I are part of putting together what we're calling the One Faith Experience. It's going to be in St. Louis at the Chaffetz Arena, April 23rd. Even if you don't live in the St. Louis area, go to onefaithexperience.com. There are travel packages, group advantage ticket prices. It's only $15 or $18 each for a conference, an all-day conference with 6 great speakers, and a concert that night featuring Matt Maher. Again, it's onefaithexperience.com. We'd love to have you participate with us in that in April. God bless.